Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host Tony Cañas, and today I'm recording with recurring guest. I think short of Nick Lamparelli and myself, and maybe Carly, but even Carly, maybe not. Bryan Falchuk, who is joining me today to talk about PLRB, and this has to be like your eighth or ninth time on the show. Thank you
Like
so
that.
much
Yeah.
for continuing to come back. So Brian, we've had you before to talk about a bunch of different things, and recently, uh, you've kind of like gone beyond full circle. So basically, you went a Big Four consultant, carrier C level, insurtech C level, independent consultant,
Yeah.
multiple time author, and recently, just this year, if I'm not mistaken, you've come back to full on insurance industry executive.
Employment. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which I did not think that you were ever going to go back to W-2 employment within insurance. Uh,
Neither did I.
but you didn't come back to a carrier. You
No.
basically came back as what is the official title? CEO and president, or
Yeah, president and CEO.
president
Yeah.
and CEO of PLRB, and
Yep.
so PLRB. I I'm a former claims adjuster, much less than you and the people that you led. Only 2 years, and I never heard of PLRB during those 2 years. And then
Yep.
I spoke once at PLRB in New Orleans, I think at the annual meeting, and
Yeah.
I learned that PLRB is a resource for the claims side of the industry.
Yeah.
But that's all I had ever heard of PLRB. And then all of a sudden, I saw you become president and CEO of PLRB, and I'm like, okay, so interesting stuff's going on at PLRB. And then the PLRB conference this year, I heard from so many people that it was fantastic.
It's huge. Yeah.
And then we finally sat down a little bit to talk at InsurTech Hartford and agreed to record this podcast. So anyway, it's your microphone. What is PLRB and what are you doing now with PLRB?
Yeah. Well, your comment about that you didn't know when you were in claims, I don't remember if I had heard of it at that point. And to be fair, like I was in specialty lines. PLRB doesn't do a ton in specialty lines, a little bit, but not a ton. And so it wouldn't be, I would think about NAPSLO or WSIA now and, Plus and things like that more so than PLRB. But the first person who I remember mentioning PLRB was you. And it was when you were going to give that talk. So I was like, that's when, so this is all your fault, I guess is what I'm
So,
trying to get at.
so note to PLRB. My usual fee is 25%,
Yeah, some finder's fee.
but given that this was such a roundabout 10%, and I'm a happy guy, call.
All right. Well, I know someone there, so we'll see if we can work something out. But so what is PLRB? And it stands for something. And if you ask people what it stands for, it's generally you're going to hear Property Loss Research Bureau, which is its old name. It's Property and Liability Resource Bureau, but we should just call it PLRB. It's too much of a mouthful. Bureau sounds like, is it the FBI or is it like super old? But either way, we refer to it as PLRB. And if you ask people what is PLRB, generally they'll tell you, oh, it's that big conference. They'll say, are you going to PLRB? And I think for most people, they don't know, like next level down beyond the conference, which is a huge part of what we do. What are we really? And you said it's a resource for claims people, and that's primarily where we focus. We definitely have underwriting people and trainers and product people and others that get involved as well. But the core constituent is claims professionals at carriers in the U.S. So we're just in the U.S., not North America, so not spanning to Canada or Mexico. But that still doesn't tell you what the heck we do. And this is, as a candidate and as someone who got more exposed to it when I was in the insurtech side, it's amazing what a resource it is. And I ended up kicking myself, like, why wasn't I involved when I was in claims? Because it could have helped a lot. So I think if there's one word in terms of what we focus on, it's coverage. It's the delivery of coverage to insureds. So that means our members, which are carriers, so like 80% of the premium written in the U.S. is written by members of PLRB. Um, they're out there handling claims, and I think you would get this because you've been in claims. But for people outside, you may not understand when a claim comes in, It's not just covered, not covered. It's okay, well, what are the facts about it? What are the nuances to whether it's covered or not? What part of the policy is implicated? Even if it's covered, where? Like what underwriting clause is being affected? What endorsement is called in or not? And do the endorsements conflict with? Like, there's all kinds of complications. Figuring out coverage is complicated. And so that's probably the biggest thing that we do is we have a team of in-house attorneys who give advice and guidance, not legal advice. So we're not rendering legal opinions, but we'll look at your forms and look at the documents that came in on the first notice and help you sort out, what is the issue here? Where is the coverage, or where is there not coverage, and why? So that you can move forward. And that's all just included in membership. So, there's outside coverage counsel, there's in-house coverage counsel, super valuable resources. But sometimes that's more than what you need, or you're not sure if you need that yet. And it's like, do I incur that bill with a coverage counsel firm? I don't know yet. So let me get that first view from PLRB and see, what's the universe and the specificity of the issue here. So we're a resource there, and everything that we've done is in a database. So you can ask fresh question and say, hey, this is what we're facing, or you can search and say, this escape of water issue in Maryland on this policy form, what's the deal? And you can see all the things that we've handled in the past. There's over 85,000 entries in our database for all these things carriers have come to us on over the years. So that's kind of first and foremost, and that's in property and liability lines of coverage. We have weather services. So, when you're figuring out, is this covered or not? Well, did lightning actually strike there? And what was the hail that was coming down in that area? So we have interactive weather maps, hail, lightning, wind, etc. You can interact via API through our website, whatever, and you can get the verified data to see, like, yeah, there was hail, this is the size, this is verified by the NWS, National Weather Service, NOAA. And then one of the newest things we do is, and this is wild, is building codes. So building codes are like super uncorrelated and unconnected throughout the country. So every municipality, there's some things at a federal level, but generally it's state and usually local level. And there's no like database of these things. So when you're, arguing with a contractor who's saying, we have to rebuild like this, and so the claim needs to be bigger because of the code, it's like, well, what is the code? And are they telling the truth or not? And are they understanding it or not? Or, there's a lawsuit over the code that, this wasn't built to code, and so we're suing the landlord. And it's like, well, what was the code at the time of construction? Again, a database where we've actually pulled the codes together. Wherever we can get them, we get them. You can't get them everywhere, but we've gotten them for most jurisdictions. And then we have researchers who will go out and find things and get you those answers and bring you that clarity. So those are the sort of three kind of coverage sides of it, and it keeps going. The part where you know us from the conference, that exists in our meetings and education unit. And so that's providing a ton of CE credits to claims professionals throughout the year, either at our events. So we have 4 in-person events, our big one, our large loss conference, which some people will know. And then we do 2 regionals that we move around the country to spread the love and get some other local folks involved. And then through the web. So, webinars and pre-recorded things, and you can get your CE credits, and we'll actually take care of the filings for you. So yeah, lots of things around delivery of coverage, whether it's making you a better professional to do that, or helping you sort out what you're facing and how to navigate it.
Okay, so super interesting stuff here. So if I'm not mistaken, it's been a crazy couple of months since I saw you at Insurtech Hartford. But if I'm not mistaken, like one of the things you said that really struck me back then is how much money you would have saved back when you were head of claims at both of the carriers that you ran claims for, had you known about, especially the in-house attorneys, kind of right, like so many times, if I understood correctly, you could have literally checked PLRB first and then sometimes not actually have to engage an expensive attorney.
Yeah, absolutely. And our membership, it's a very good value. I'm not going to say it's cheap, but it's a very fairly priced product, the offering from PLRB, and it gives you access to everything unlimited. So ask as many questions as you want. If I were to go outside to coverage counsel, on average, we're probably paying about $2,800 each time, and some were cheaper, but many were much more than that. We're not going to get rid of all of that. nor should we. Quite often you do need a proper legal opinion. There's value in having that rendered and having that official letter from the attorneys. But there certainly is a level of it that we could have avoided, and it doesn't take that many coverage questions to an attorney at $2,800 a pop to get to whatever your PLRB dues are, which are, in all honesty, and it's easy for me to say because I'm not the one paying it, but relatively speaking, having paid things like this in the past, I think it's a very fair deal. We measure the value that our members are getting relative to their dues, and it's multiples. So it's 4x, 8x. Like, it's not hard to make the membership dues back in education that you're not spending on getting otherwise, getting these coverage opinions, not paying for other weather services or building code services, because it's all just included. Use as much as you want. There's no fee per use. And it also means your people don't have to wonder, do I pay the $100 to get this report on X from this source? Or should I incur the $2,500 over here? You can just get the information without having to wonder, what's that going to do to the loss adjusting expense on this claim? There's no expense issue around it.
And if 80% of premium in the U.S. is written by members of PLRB, that means that probably 80% of the claims adjusters out there are already members, and they just might not know it.
Might not know it. Yeah. So we've got tens of thousands of folks registered with user accounts on our website, which is great. But there's plenty more who are eligible, because when you're a member as a carrier, it's all inclusive. So it's not just the claims folks. Your underwriters can have access. Your actuaries can have access. Anyone. Your training team, which I think is fantastic. You can take our modules and put them into your LMS, so they can just be available to your staff for training, and it's free. So when you become a member of PLRB as a carrier, you have access to all of that. And different carriers use it to different extents, but I'd say my number one focus coming in, and I've been CEO for just 6 months now. I joined a little bit before that for some handover. My number one focus is engagement. So, if we have X% of a member's employees aware of PLRB and using us, what about, the other the other half of that coin? All the folks who could be using us, and you're paying for them to use us and to know us and lean on us. Why aren't they aware? Why isn't that happening? So that's my biggest thing is, I say it's sort of like we've got a fantastic problem. We don't have a product problem. Product's great. It's a distribution problem, right? So like, how do we get the word out? How do we get awareness? And a part of that is delivery. So are we making it as easy as frictionless for our members and their employees to get to our products and services? So that's been a big focus for us this year. And there's a number of things coming later this year and beginning of next year that I think will make a pretty dramatic impact, including a whole new website that I'm scared to put that on record, the delivery date. It will be done by the end of the year, and we may hold it back just for some testing and data migration, but within Q1 of 2024 at the latest, it'll be live.
So it's been a while since I've been a carrier employee. I can't believe that it's already been like 6 years since I've been a carrier employee. But having been both in claims and then in underwriting in different carriers, we had tons of tools, and tons of third-party tools. But generally, those third-party tools were difficult to use, difficult to access. Right, I'm thinking like Silver Plume and there's a whole bunch, and what they all had in common was it was a lot easier to go to Google. Now, when you go to Google, you have a chance of getting the right answer and a significant chance of not getting the right answer, and you might get false confidence. Right, while the professional tools that the company's paying for are going to be much higher quality, but if it's hard to get access, if it's hard if they're hard to use, so it's fantastic to hear. Like, I'm assuming that as it exists today, that the access to the content is not as beautiful UI wise as an Amazon Google experience. But I'm very happy to hear that you guys are actively investing on getting much closer to that user experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we have to have humility about this, and the reality is it needs to get better. And I think about ChatGPT, and I'm just going to throw that out so you have the buzzword, so you get your SEO juice for the episode. in all honesty, you go to ChatGPT or Bing, with ChatGPT on board and ask it about like, what is the prior case law on this, this issue, and it's going to come up with an answer. The problem is its data source is vast. It's the internet, which means it will come up with an answer. What you don't know is whether that answer is real or not. And there's been a ton of articles largely from attorneys, understandably protecting their craft. But I searched for, case law on this issue, and ChatGPT gave me the case citation with all the details on it. There is no such case. Like, it's completely fabricated. And it's because, like, the poor thing, you can't blame ChatGPT. It's going out to the internet, and the internet is full of like half of it's true, half of it's not, and half of it, even though it's 150%, is somewhere in between. So if you're rendering a coverage decision, if you go off the wrong information or erroneous or false information, you're gonna get sued. And then that, like $2,800, $3,200 like minor claim is now a $50,000 litigated matter. If you're lucky, $50,000, right? So to be able to have a place to turn where like it's almost a walled garden, where the information is vetted and validated and you know what you're getting, and we need to make it easier to self-serve and find it. And if you can't, you always have, that's the vast majority of our staff are member facing to answer those questions, and to, you send us what you got, we will go do the research and come back to you with, here are the cases, here are the links to them, these are the citations, this is the coverage part that's implicated, this is the issue. We'll give you all that. And the reality is, like, adjusters are too busy. They don't have time to dig through all that themselves and to search Westlaw or LexisNexis or whatever. So that's what we're here for.
Is there a quick way for me to check if my company's a member?
That's a good question. You could ask me, or you could ask our team, but for most people working at U.S. carriers, your company's probably a member. If you try to create a user account, we go by the domain name. So when State Farm or Liberty Mutual is a member, anyone with an @libertymutual.com email address.
Okay, so literally, try to create an account.
And it'll work.
Perfect.
And if it doesn't, then chances are it's because you're not a member.
Perfect.
And if there's an issue, you can reach out to us, and we put contact info all over the site, so pretty easy to find it and ask. And if you're not a member, we can talk to you about it. And there are ways to help get your company on board and make that smoother.
Okay, so step one, try to create an account, and it should work for 80% of people out there, roughly. Step two, if that didn't work, then check with your leadership and see if it should work. And if they go like, what's PLRB? Then reach out to Bryan and his team, and let's have that conversation. Okay, perfect. I love that. I love the fact that you can just try to create an account, and if you are if your email address is a subscribed carrier, then it should just work.
It should just work.
Fantastic. What can you? We're early yet. We're recording in July. We've agreed that this episode won't go live until a couple months because you were on the podcast recently. But if you can already share a little bit about the new website, what is it going to be like? What can people expect?
So there were two things that really stood out to me, and it's all about getting to knowledge. So the first is the structure of it. And I come in from a carrier perspective. And when I looked at the structure of our offering at PLRB, it's from a PLRB perspective. So it's based on how the teams were set up. And look, this is really common across lots of companies and lots of industries. The PLRB has been around in different forms since 1947. So like, fax machines, pre-fax machines is letters, right? Like, and we would issue these books every year with information. There was no database, right? So we've been coming up through the ages like that. And so that means our outward persona was structured around how we've always done things. And I'm very proud of the fact that we have a lot of people who have been at the Bureau for a long time. So we've got a lot of in-house expertise that we've developed over the years, which is great, but also means we haven't had an injection of outside kind of views to say, hey, wait a second, why do we do it this way? That's what I get to do. So as I look at it, if I'm a claims adjuster, I've got a property claim. A lightning struck a tree, it fell through the house. So I've got multiple aspects of this issue I need to sort out. I've got clearly a property claim. I need to know, was there actually lightning in the area? Can we get something on the lightning strike? Was there a building code issue? Because now the contractor's telling me the roof has to be done this way because the code's changed, and I don't know. So I need help with coverage, I need help with weather, I need help with building codes, and I might have to do a bit of educational stuff because maybe something's new about this to me. Right now, PLRB, those are 4 separate interactions. You're going to different parts of the website, totally unrelated. For me, as a claims adjuster, I don't have 4. I didn't wake up and be like, oh, you know what? I've got 4 separate interactions I need from PLRB. No, I have a claim. A tree fell through a house, and I got to figure some stuff out. So how do we, on our side, do the navigating for you? So let's structure the world around what you're living with, and that's a property claim or an auto claim or a GL claim or a BOP claim or what have you. And so that's the biggest thing is, look, the look and feel had to get a lot better. And I've already seen the site. It's in beta form already. It's awesome. It looks great. So that ticked that box. But the navigation had to make sense. And it's going to be different. And there are people who just like knew how to use our site and they're used to that. And it will be like, this is weird. I don't like it. I totally get that. Bear with us through the change management of it. But we had to make that shift to, if we want to be more inclusive for the next generation of adjusters and claims professionals and insurance professionals, we had to think through their eyes. So that's first and foremost. The second is that search side of it. So if you're looking for, any one of these 85,000 plus pieces that we've put out on different coverage issues, or the weather research that we've done, or the building codes, or the educational stuff and the courses that you can take, you have to be able to get to that easier, right? And you should need to be trained on how to search for it. Like I remember my early days in insurance, I had to search LexisNexis. And my boss is like, anytime you do that, take out a piece of paper or get your notebook and start writing down the search terms that you're using. And it wasn't just words, it was Booleans. It's like and or, you had to use these operators. And he's like, you have to keep track of it to know what you found. Otherwise, you're going to end up searching the same things over and over again. And we're not that bad. But nobody needs to be trained like that. Nobody needs to have a piece of paper when they're going to Google or Bing or whatever, right? Or any other website. So we need to evolve the tools there. And it's not quite that bad, right? But that doesn't mean it couldn't be better. I think you've heard me give my bank robbery analogy many times, but like if we robbed 10 banks last year and only 5 this year, we're better, right? But the reality is you shouldn't rob banks. So how do we get to not robbing banks? And PLRB is not in that spot whatsoever. But just because it's better than it was, that's not good enough. And if you're, the life of an adjuster is tough. They are overburdened. There's a lot of pressure. There are some pretty nasty people coming at them, the plaintiff's bar and others. There's fraudsters out there. It's a rough life. The least we can do is make getting to the help we have to offer even easier. So that's the focus of the new
Perfect. So switching not only to a friendlier UI, a more modern UI, but also you're switching the entire company from a product focus, which is very typical how insurance organizations were organized, to a client focus, which is kind of the modern way that we're all trying to reorganize. Totally. It makes perfect sense. And I think it speaks really highly of PLRB to have hired you, because like you're not only a tried and true claims leader, but your name is basically synonymous with insurance innovation. I mean, you've written freaking, 3 books about it thus far. It's a great signal to the market that right, because they could have easily just I don't know how long the last leader was there, but like this person, I'm guessing a guy, could have literally just anointed his somebody to keep doing the same thing that he was doing, and instead they went out and brought somebody known for innovation, which is not an easy thing for an organization to do. So
I give the board a lot of credit for that, and I've looked at roles here and there. I don't talk about it publicly, but I've looked at some other things, and quite often what you'd see is, and some actually were very similar to the PLRB situation, and the board talked about wanting to make change and wanting to, the next evolution. It's like it's not bad. We recognize the world is moving and we have to shift at some point. And what you typically find is it was like me and then a bunch of people who were maybe 10 years younger than the retiring CEO, but looked and felt exactly the same. And that's ultimately what they went with. And that's totally fine. That's up to them. I'm glad to know that, because I wouldn't want to work at a place where it's like, we want to change. Actually, we don't really know. We're not sure if we're ready for it. Because the problem is, like, the world erodes underneath you if you're not willing to. And change doesn't mean throw everything away. Change doesn't mean hack everything apart. I'm sure for my staff, they were nervous. Right? Like, my predecessor was there over 40 years, CEO for over 20. That's what they knew. And it's like, well, here's this guy, we don't know who he is. We've never met him before. And the first time we're meeting him is he's the new boss. And that's got to be scary, because there is a lot of greatness in this organization. And so for them to feel like, well, here's someone from the outside, he's probably just going to hack everything apart. Absolutely not. This to me is a gem. It's getting polished a little bit, but it's a fantastic thing. And I don't think we need massive change. I think we need to rethink, like you said, moving the structure from product focus to customer or client focus, or member focus in our case. It's a paradigm shift or a mental shift, more so than like, we're going to trash all this and, build something from scratch, and like AI and what, like, I can use all the buzzwords in the world. That's not necessarily the right thing here. So lots of change and repositioning, but at the same time, at the core, it's still PLRB, and I think that's a really good thing. I wouldn't have wanted to join otherwise.
Fantastic. Very, very, very exciting stuff. So assuming this doesn't go out until, let's say, September, we haven't really looked at the calendar yet, but do you already know the dates of the next few conferences? Can you share dates and locations if you do know them?
Yeah, and so people won't see me looking at my calendar, so it looks like I know off the top of my head. So the next one is right around when this is coming up, we've got our Midwest Regional Conference or Central Region Conference in Schaumburg, Illinois in September, but I'm guessing we'll probably be after that. But the big one is the Large Loss Conference, which is going on in Atlanta in November, the week before Thanksgiving. So that's the 16th and 17th. And then the really big one is in March in Boston this year, which is where I live. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, people are going to think that we book these things like 7 years out. So I have nothing to do with the location, I promise you. But it's in Boston, and it starts Sunday night, the 17th of March at the Heinz Convention Center. And the Sheraton that's attached to it. So that's a big deal. And if you're interested in going, all I would say is you better book your hotels early. We held our last one in Orlando at the Marriott World Center, or whatever it's called, largest Marriott in the world. And they have 1,900 rooms, all but like 10 of them were booked up for us, and we had 2 hotels. So it's a big deal. So if you're interested, and members get to attend for free. So that's, more value for you there. So yeah, hopefully we see people out there.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if your company's a member, basically you just need to convince your boss on airfare and hotel.
Yep.
And that is fantastic.
Yeah, and you can get like all of your CE credits for the year, basically, because it's 3 days of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nonstop CE classes. Have at it and get your credits. So that's a really easy way to do that. And I think tickets are, I want to say $1,200, $1,250, something like that.
For non-members?
For non-members. So you can still come as a non-member. But I mean, that's another way that, like, well, if you're paying 40 grand in dues and you send 10 people, well, that's already, more than a quarter of your dues are covered just in the ticket price if you never used anything else. So there's a lot of ways that, like I said, it's not cheap. It's just a very good value. We err on the side of trying to provide more value to our members. So that's an easy way. All of our conferences for all of our members are totally free.
That is, I had no idea, and that is truly fantastic, especially taking into account that freaking 80% of claims adjusters. So claims, you have a hard time getting budget for things. You feel a little less love than the underwriters and especially the salespeople do. This is your opportunity. You can get your CE credits. Top of the line content. I was very impressed the year that I did speak at PLRB. The content was definitely fantastic. The content around me was definitely fantastic.
I'm sure yours is very good.
Yeah, no, I love speaking, but like I'm not a technical claim speaker. Like I think I was there for one day of the 2 days, and I sat in on a few of them, and I was like, wow, this is like
Right,
people
because
who
there's
really
CEs.
know their stuff.
Yeah. But so one of the things we've added is something called PLRB Presents, and that goes on one of the days throughout the day. So you can do the CE stuff if you want, or you can come to this. And this is like TEDx talks. They're
Oh,
15
okay,
minutes.
okay.
They're not for credit, and they're on soft skills or technology. So we've got 4 of these tracks with 3 talks in each, and then a panel. And I run one of them that we do with the future of insurance. So we had people like Emma Roloff spoke at the last one, where we got into what AI means for the future of careers and claims, which is fascinating. It was
That
an
is
awesome panel. So, like, yes, on the CE side, you can get deep on that, and if you want to just get into some of the issues in the industry, or you're, a burgeoning leader and you want to grow, like, there's going to be programming for that too. So we try to have a mix, but it's very CE focused. But we definitely bring in some other content, and we always get an awesome keynote speaker as well.
did that Emma Roloff one happen to get recorded? Is that available
It
somewhere?
did. Yeah, so that's for our members. You get free access to all that. So that's available in our education library. So yeah, there were 3 talks: Sri Ramaswamy from Charlie AI,
Fantastic.
and then we had someone else as well, a guy named Nils Malo from Claims Force. I should know whether there's an S in it or not. I think it's Claims Force, a German company that does claim systems to help with adjusting.
Okay, fantastic, super exciting stuff. So yeah, if you're in claims, take a good look at PLRB. Lots of exciting stuff going on there, and lots of great resources. I've been there for a long time, getting recooked, re-underwritten, reproduced, getting spiffed up, getting remodeled for the 21st
New
century.
editions being made with them.
Under new leadership. Fantastic. Bryan, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me on, Tony.
Very exciting stuff. And I'll see you around in the fall conference season.